Today we're going to look at add-ons. So we've been looking at scripting, how to write various scripts. Remember, you can click the scripting option up here, click new, and that'll give you a new script. I'll hold down my control and do my mouse wheel and make that bigger so we can see it a little bit better. And this is a tutorial out there in the Blender documentation. It's not quite right, but it's close enough where we can adjust it some. And that can be frustrating working with these packages when they keep coming out with new versions, but the documentation is not really meant for the newest and latest version. Okay, this tutorial is designed to help technical artists or developers learn to extend Blender, and understanding the basics of Python is expected for those working with this tutorial. You should be familiar with the workings of basics of working in Blender, know how to run a script, have an understanding of Python primitive types. That's your Boolean, string, list, tuple, dictionary, and set. And some of these we've looked at. Some of them we really haven't talked about too much. So I'm gonna touch upon those before we get into this. And be familiar with the concept of Python modules and have a basic understanding of classes, object orientation, in Python. Um, yeah, yeah, you can think of it that way. They're not as not as robust. Because the ones in Unity can be integrated so much into the GUI, and maybe you can do that in this. I won't argue that, and I just don't know how to do it. So that could be. And there. Python lists. We mentioned this a little bit before. Arrays are different ways you can do them in Python. You can do them as a list, a tuple, a set, and a dictionary. Now, a list is ordered and changeable. So you got this list is equal to, and then brackets around it, and then your items inside. Okay, so if I run that, Just prints the list. A list does not have to be strings. It can be anything. Well, at least can be any other primitive type, I believe. So you can have integers, you can have floats, you can have doubles, whatever's appropriate there. To access, it is just like working with an array. So if this one accesses the index 1, and indexing starts at 0. So apple 0, bananas 1, cherries 2. So here, this list 0. Let's try to change that to 7. And then print this list again. How we accessed the first entry with index of 0, and we changed it to a 7. Is ordered and changeable. Well, we just changed it, so that demonstrates that. Order means you got to go in an order. Index 0, index 1, index 2, so forth. There's also negative indexing. Negative 1 refers to the last item. Negative 2 refers to the second last item. I'm not sure why you do this, but this is negative 1, negative 2, negative 3. Through. Index out of range. Okay, it doesn't keep going, because I think if this is 0, if I were to go around this other side, this would be negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, and if I were to go back around again, I'd think negative 4, but it doesn't work that way. This is how you can refer to the certain range, like apple 0, bananas 1, and cherry is 2. So it says returns the third, fourth, and fifth item. So that's your cherry, orange, and kiwi. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it returns one less, which you've seen before in Python with the for loop. So that's not real surprising. Excuse me. Negative 4. What's that go to? Negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4. Goes from cherry to one less, kiwi. Check, make sure I understood it right. Orange to melon. Boy, I wasn't even close. Negative 4. 0. Oh, down here. So negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4. So orange to negative 1. Orange to melon. Is that what it was? Yeah, orange to melon. We already took a look at changing the item. Looping through, you can have a special for loop for X in this list. So you don't have to put the values, it just will cycle through all of them in there. So like here, for X in this list, sum is equal to sum plus X. Sum is equal to 0. and then print sum. And just adds the numbers together. Let's see, for x in range 0, colon. Actually, I don't need to put that. I don't know how to do the length. Let's try this list.length. Doesn't look promising. I don't see length. len, this list. See that length spelled out. And then sum is equal to sum plus x, and print sum. And that didn't work. 3. Okay, let me do a 0. I think it's colon. Syntax error. It's comma. No memory. Still 3. That's weird. So what in the world is length of this list? Length of this list is 3. Oh, what am I doing? This list, X. Got a code right for it to work right. There it goes. So even though they've got a special way to loop through the list, you can just loop through it with our standard 0, comma, and then the length, which is 3. And it goes to 1 less, so it goes 0 to 2. So this is accessing all of them individually. That's probably all the exciting stuff on you do an append, add a new number onto the list. Remove, to remove an item. Pop removes specified index. Delete deletes the list completely. Clear empties the list. So lots of different things you can do with the list. I'm going to go. It's about as much as we need to know for that example, because they don't even go into that depth. Now here, and I won't go through all this again, but a tuple is a collection which is ordered and unchangeable. And instead of using brackets, you use parentheses like this. To access it, you still use brackets. And this accesses the second item because the indexing again starts at 0. We still got our negative indexing. We still got our how to refer to a range. So all that's the same. You just can't change items in it. And then last one, dictionaries. We're going to actually see, we're going to talk about dictionaries in Unity too. So this kind of covers what you need to know there too. A dictionary is just like what you think in a dictionary. You have your word and you have something associated with it. Here's how you create a dictionary in Python. You this is like your word, and over here is your definition. Specifically, they're saying brand is Ford, model is Mustang, and year is 1964. To access the items, it's kind of almost like a user-friendly way to access it. You refer to the dictionary name and then model. it comes up here and looks up the model and then returns the right side here. So it returns Mustang. So when this one gets done here, it doesn't print it or anything. But if they printed it, you'd see that it returned Mustang. I don't think they printed. Oh, there they do print here. So I'd return Mustang. Now you can do a .get that does the same thing. You can change values. So you can change year to be 2018. Just like the previous list and tuple, you can loop through them in this manner for X in, and then your dictionary name, and then print X. Now notice what it prints. By default, it printed brand, model, and year. Now that's where you're doing the print X. But if you put the dictionary name bracket X, this will print the values, what's on the right side. You'll see Ford Mustang 1964. That's probably enough of an introduction about that. What is an add-on? An add-on is simply a Python module with some additional requirements so Blender can display it in the list with useful information. So that if you create a script that does something useful, you can save it and you can use it in any Blender file. So if I do a new Blender file, if I go into Blender for the first time for that day, I have access to that code. And they give an example here, BL Blender info equals, and then name is my test add-on, category is object. This my test add-on is whatever you want to call it. This should be meaningful so you can easily find it later on. And this is a category it's assigned to. This would be an object. And this doesn't do anything exciting except for prints hello world and goodbye world. It's kind of bleak. BL info is a dictionary containing add-on metadata such as title, version, author to be displayed to preferences add-on list. Register is a function which only runs when enabling the add-on, which means the module can be loaded without activating the add-on. Is a function and unregister is a function to unload anything set up by register. This is called when add-on is disabled. And an add-on will typically register operators, panels, menu items, etc. But it's worth noting that any script can do this when executed from a text editor or even an interactive console. There's nothing inherently different about an add-on that allows it to integrate to Python. Such functionality is provided by the BPY module for any script access. Here's the key part. So an add-on is just a way to encapsulate a Python module in a way that a user can easily utilize. So how can you easily run it? You don't have to search for it. You're not trying to find out what directory it's in, what the name is. You just want to have it available to run. Now here they give us a script. We're going to run this and talk about it first, and we'll modify it to be add-on. import BPY. Then scene is equal to bpy.context.scene. This is referring to our current scene. And then this is whatever we want to call it. It's a variable name for object in scene.objects. Well, this in we just saw, this is going through a list of objects. And at that point, it's referring to object, which is that name right there, dot location.x, and plus equals 1.0. That's moving everything by 1. Now, it's not just moving the cube, it's moving the camera, it's moving the light, it's moving everything by 1. So if I run this over here, click the run script, you'll see my light source and my camera and the cube all moving one unit. I don't know if I can do this or not. I'm trying to remember where that comes out as. Scene.objects. Now, when you print it, it tells you a little bit about it. We got 3 items on there, and you see it's referencing BPY underscore collection, and then has that 3. I gotta close that silly thing. I guess I gotta toggle system constantly. Used to be an older version of Blender. That window that you see pop up there. I think this is a real flaw. If you had that pop up, I think it was that one. If you close it, it closed Blender down. And if you hadn't saved it, you potentially lost some of your data, some of your changes. So they made it more rigid, where it especially closes it down in a particular manner. Okay, so we've seen what that does. Now let's say we want to change that to an add-on. I'm going to copy all this and I'll talk about it. By the way, if I try to run this, well, that is strange. Mine doesn't work at home when I run that. I got the newest version at home. I probably have a newer version at home than I do here. So maybe they broke it. Not that one. Hmm. Well, I'll show this. You may or may not have to do this. Mine at home said I needed to upgrade to 2.0, 2.8x. So it gave me this error message. And to fix it, I had to simply put this line in here. So Blender 2, 80, 0. And I come up here and it goes in the BL info. Okay, so this is the name we're giving it. And then we got our category, the object here, Blender, and then the version is what it's referring to there. We import BPY. Now here we got a class, and that's the same principle as Unity, we saw over there. So we got an object. We have some different attributes, class variables that go with it. ID name, object.move underscore x, labeled move x by 1. Got our options, so register and undo. This first one here is a tooltip for menu items and buttons. You can put this as a menu on here if you wanted to. Unique identifier for buttons and menu items to reference. Display name in the interface. Enable undo for the operator. So you can do a Control Z or the actual undo within the package. Now you could use the same register if there's other things you want to enable. Don't know what that'd be, but you're not limited just to undo. Okay, so here is our execute, and this is what gets called when running the operator. Hi, I can hear you now. What you now? How do you get your sound to work again? Okay, I had somebody last night. I couldn't hear her at all on Zoom. We finally had to go to the chat window, so that's weird. That trouble last night, trouble this morning. I wonder if they're having issues. Okay, execute is called when running the operator. So it comes down here, gets my current scene. It loops through every one of the objects in that scene, moving it by 1. And then it does a return here, finished. This lets Blender know the operator finished successfully. So it's got more options here that have to be there for the interface. How to put it in. We again have our register down here, and we got our unregister. You see, you got bpy.utils.register class and unregister class, and object move x, and then down here is unregister for it. And then this down here allows you to run the script directly from Blender's text editor to test add-on without having to install it. Okay, so if I run this, then let's see, I think it's F3. If I do F3, You see there's an item down here that says move X by 1. So it's now a choice we can choose. And if I pick this, it moves all three of them by 1. Does that make sense on what an add-on is? Okay. Now that's not permanently set up. That's just we ran it this time. We installed it for this this Blender file. There's a way you can set it up so that it'll always be there no matter what. So preferences under edit, I believe. We'll go back to our tutorial. You know, interestingly enough, they say to test the script, you can copy and paste it into Blender's text editor and run it. This will execute the script directly and call register immediately. When I was at home and I did this same thing, when I clicked run script here, it actually moved everything. But it isn't here. So interesting. So this implies that it'll actually run it, but it won't. I don't think. My one at home did. Says oh, it says it won't move any objects. My one at home did though. That was interesting. I think it did. Maybe it didn't. It was kind of early. I ran out of steam last night, so I went to bed and I woke up 5 o'clock this morning to refresh my memory on this topic. Okay. I already showed that. Now here's how you install the add-on. And they don't say it. First thing we got to do is we got to save it. And it's under Edit Preferences. So let me save this. Got to remember where it's at. Users, David Hayes, Documents. And I'll call this the Move It. .py. And click Save As. Save As again. Now if I go to Edit. Oh, okay. That's coming back now. If you don't have this here, and let me save that. When you go to Edit Preferences, and there's an add-ons right here, and you go to Install, and move it, .py, and say Install add-on from file. That's where it gives the error message. So it's upgrade to 2.8x required, so it doesn't work. So this is where you have to put that in there. Now once you have that in there, and now you go to Edit, Preferences, Add-ons, and go to Install, and you pick the script you just created, and say Install add-on from file. There is no error message, and it installs just fine. Okay, so if I close that, and let me save this just to be on the safe side. Okay, I exit out of Blender completely. Discard changes. Go back into Blender. Got my cube right here. Now if I do my F3, and I start typing move, well, question is, what did I call it? I don't think it registered, did it? Let's save as default. Maybe I didn't do that part. Let's see. Edit, preferences, add-ons, install, move it. Install add-on from file. You listed and enable by, and you can enable it by pressing checkbox. Okay. Then, if you want it to be re-enabled on restart, press save as default. I sure don't see a save as default. Save preferences. Okay, save preferences. Now let me try to exit out and go back in. That's curious. I didn't have to do that at home. Now let's do F3 and see if it's there. Move X by 1. So I wasn't paying attention. Yeah, it is moving everything. Okay, so we had to do an edit preferences. I did my install. I had to check this. And I guess it was down here, wasn't it? Then I had to save preferences. Or it may just go ahead and save it. Let's say my one at home saved it fine. Does that make sense how to put an add-on in there? Okay. Now to take it off, you can uncheck this. And my one at home, again, that's all I had to do. But this looks like I'd choose this and choose save preferences. Here's a second add-on that they have. I probably won't go over this. I didn't actually try this, but here's how you can do a menu item. Add-ons can add to the user interface of existing panels, headers, and menus defined in Python. For this example, I added to an existing menu. I guess object. To find identifier of menu, first enable Python tooltips and preferences. Let's go ahead and do this. Edit preferences. Python tooltips. Here's Python tooltips, and that's weird. You see how it says auto save preferences? That's probably why mine's worked at home, but I wonder why this didn't automatically save them. I'll do save because since auto save doesn't appear to be working right. Okay. Then you can have your mouse with the menu item identifier is displayed. So if I put my object there, the identifier is view 3D underscore MT underscore object. Method for use for adding a menu item is to append a draw function into an existing class. Key and Blender add-ons have their own key maps, so as not to interfere with Blender's built-in key maps. Menu function register. Okay, so this is all of it here, I guess. Okay, so I'm gonna go to the scripting and do my open and move it. Okay, so they don't have the version there, but we got our class defined. That's what we did right here. Got our execute just fine. Need a menu function. Actually, I'll grab that at the same time. Looking for object cursor array. See if that's defined here or it's within the program. Object cursor array. It's in our register. Except for I have object move X. Which would imply that this should be object move X. Because that's our class we created up here. Okay. BLID name is just the one up here. Um, it's like for our register, we have some other items we need, like all of this. Okay, BPY types.view 3D empty object. That came from when I put my mouse over the object. It says view 3D underscore empty underscore object. Dot append appends it to that menu. So when I do the object here, it'll be appended probably at the end, if I had to guess. Menu function. Not sure where the menu function is coming from yet, but we'll probably see that down below. Okay, so then BPY context.window manager, that looks fine. Key config, that looks fine. Object mode, space. Space type empty. Key mapping. Here's object cursor array again. That should be object move X. Properties totals 4. Okay, now unregister. Put this before. Is it a 4? That was a 4. Add on key maps clear, and then our unregistered object move X. Almost looks like all you have to do. I wonder if it'll run. Give me an error. Check the message in the system console. 3. OT move, object OT. Has no attribute total. Object move X. BLT. KMI. KMI is referring to the key map items. Yeah, let me just get rid of that. Control C and delete that. Let's try that. Appeared to run. Huh, there, I got it. I don't know why the other one wasn't working, but I knew it was just so like shortcuts. You know, you have to hold on your Shift Control T to get that to work. Now, if I hold on Shift Control T, it's not going to work. I have to actually choose a menu item here. When you run across scripting, it isn't necessarily that you always have to be a genius at it. You just have to understand some basics. I knew this was an object name, and so when I did the comparison over here, not there, when I did the comparison over here, and I was wondering what in the world is this object cursor array? And then I came up here and saw that this was an object cursor array, clicked right away, that is referring to the object, the class. And from there, I knew mine was object move X, so I could do the appropriate substitution like that. And does that make sense on how to change that so you could put it as a menu item? And say it isn't too exciting. I just come up here and that's curious. I would have swore there was two before. But if I choose that menu item, you see all my. It deletes it after it runs it, doesn't it? So why would it delete it after it ran it? Because I have remove. BPY types remove the menu function. Actually, I think it's pound is Python. There it goes. Hmm. I don't know why they had that there. You wouldn't want to remove the menu if you want to keep it there and use it for some purpose. But if you have something you're trying to automate that you do on a regular basis, it takes a little bit playing here and so forth, changes, and but then after that, then you don't have to change it again. This right here is kind of the main thing that's being done. So you change this, and pretty much the other items you can leave as is, except um, instead of move x-axis, you'd want to rename this and label down here to whatever you want. If I wanted it on a different menu, then if I want it over here under the add, You see it says it's a view 3D MT underscore add. So I changed this view 3D underscore MT underscore object to add. And I'm going to go through and verify this nowhere else that I need to change that. I guess that's it. So if I run that now, you see I have a just do it down here. Question is, what's wrong with this? Line 37. This implies you have to hold down the Shift, Control, and T. It's object move X, BLID name. Let's make sure they didn't change anything else up in the ID name object dot move X. Call it that. Cursor array, register, undo, total. I don't think I had that, did I? That refers to a property. And actually is what it's referring to down here, dot total. Helps if I actually put all the here we go. So BPY properties, integer, declared an integer. Now that part I don't think I understand. Let's see what this says it's doing. All the rest is kind of clear. Notice how the keep map item can have a total setting different than the default set by the operator. This allows you to have multiple keys accessing the same operator with different settings. While Shift Control T is not a default Blender key shortcut, it's hard to make sure add-ons will not override each other's key maps. Okay, well, it doesn't exactly explain what that's doing, but let's run that. And Shift Control T. So Shift Control T. There it goes. Okay, so their code works fine on that. Well, the assignment on that is I want you to write your own add-on and make it as a menu, so forth. And what I want you to do is just to have the script open over here, do your menu like that, and do a screenshot. and you'll turn in just a screenshot. So you don't have to turn in a Blender file on that. Now, if you're not sure how to do a screenshot in Windows, if you just press your print screen button, it'll capture this to a clipboard, and you can put it into a Word document or into an image file or whatever you want. Mac, I don't know. Questions on what I'm looking for? Okay. And I'll put the tutorial out there. The only thing you have to remember about tutorial is that if you want to make it permanent, where it'll be there from here on out, you have to put this line in right here. That isn't in the tutorial. Let me go put Dropbox out there.